Broadcasters, I'm Sheldon Neal, and you're watching Slice Network's newest show, Broadcast Basics. On episode 1, we're going to talk about cameras, which cameras to use for a broadcast, a webcam, or a video camera, and how to connect all this to your computer. All this and more on Broadcast Basics. Since this is the first show, I want to explain the purpose behind Broadcast Basics. I'm a broadcaster. I stream sports and live events in my community and wanted to create a show where I could show my workflows and offer tips and tricks on things that I've learned out in the field. Each show will have a different topic. I'll have my recommendations that I offer, and we'll have different ideas for small, medium, and large budgets. This week is cameras, so let's go ahead and begin. Cameras are usually one of the first things people think about when starting their live broadcast. There's 3 major categories. There's webcams, then there's prosumer video cameras, and then there's pro video cameras. Depending on the environment, the situation, that will depend on which camera you should use for the job. I met a guy who spent $3,000 on a video camera that he ended up using for an internet talk show. That's a little bit overkill, and he came to me and asking me why some of his other friends' live streams look just as good as his, and they were using just a HD webcam. Well, he was in a small studio, and he didn't need that big of a camera. So we're going to talk more about environment and the situations and budget here next. For smaller studios or for smaller budgets, I want to suggest an HD webcam. These things do really, really well in those environments, and this is a small webcam that an example of what you'd be using. For medium-sized budgets, and if your studio is a little bit bigger, you may need to grab a prosumer video camera. It's an HD camera, and it's going to give you a couple more features that the webcam won't. And then if you're doing concerts, if you're doing events, if you're doing sports, then that's when that big camera would work a lot better, and that's a pro video camera. I just want to jump back to the guy who has spent all that money on a video camera. His camera was great. It had long zoom range, pro audio capabilities, good and low light. All of these things are very, very good, but none of them matter for his Skype calls, his Skype shows. So you got to keep that in mind. He thought that the more money he spent would be better quality, and that's just not the case. So keep that in mind. We're going to now talk about how to connect these cameras to your computer. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about how to connect your cameras to your computer. With the USB webcam, it can't be any simpler. Install the software, take your USB port, plug it into the computer. No problems, it should just work. For the larger cameras, the prosumer cameras or the pro cameras, you've got to have a little bit more hardware. These cameras usually output HDMI, so it's a standard HDMI port, and they may also output component. The key thing is you're going to need a capture card. This is a device that acts like a bridge between your camera and your computer. And so it captures your video and then dumps it off to your computer. And depending on what that capture card accepts, it may accept component inputs, it may accept HDMI inputs, depending on the capture card you get. So just keep that in mind. The one thing you have to watch is make sure that your camera outputs the resolution that your capture card accepts. So if your camera outputs 1080 at 30p, you're going to want to make sure that your capture card accepts 1080 at 30p. It's that simple. We'll talk more about different devices and different capture cards and different ways to extend that range in future shows. So each show, I'm going to recommend an item that relates to the topic. And this week, we're recommending the Logitech C920. This is a HD webcam that gives excellent quality. I don't own one, so there's no demo today, but I have an older Logitech camera that works perfect. I've been using this for about 6 years. It still rocks out. The sound is decent. The picture quality is good. I would use a Logitech C920 for Skype calls and Skype shows, for Google Hangouts, and I actually use it for sports. I mount one of these cameras to my announcer's monitor, and that way I get a quick shot of my announcers every once in a while during the game. It's a small, compact camera. It's crystal clear quality, and it just works really, really well. And this is exactly why I recommend it today. Well, that's our episode for today. But before I go, I want to show you what we have in store for you for the rest of this year on Broadcast Basics. Atomos has done it again. We all love their recorders. Now they have converters. So this is that utility bag I was talking about. You've got your tape measure, you've got screwdrivers, you've got gaff tape. I'm gonna show you everything you need to put in this bag for a broadcast. Today we're adding a GoPro to our broadcast. College games do it. I'm gonna show you how to use a glide cam during your broadcast. Those smooth motion shots, you can use those during your broadcast. Your camera has to be wireless, but we'll talk about that today. And you wanna make that camera motorized? Look at this right here. You can control it all from your remote. Be sure to add MySliceTV on Twitter and subscribe to us on YouTube. All of our links are listed below. Thanks for watching.